Hi, my name is Nicole Sawyer, and I'm here today with Micah Hubbard. Micah is here today to do a tell-all, to tell us how it was, how it is, and what's going on now. Micah, thank you so much for meeting with me today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Great, great. So, Micah, let's just get straight to it. Tell us and tell everybody else how it was before you ever met Paws in prison. How was life before prison? What got you there?
Well, to start with, I had a pretty rough life growing up. I had a very dysfunctional family. My parents became addicted to drugs when I was very, very young. And so it led me on a super dark path at 11 years old. And so, growing up in that lifestyle and making wrong choices just kind of led up to, me not being able to be a productive member of society. Um, Drug use, getting pregnant at a very young age, inactive addiction, not being able to get myself together to be able to be the mother for my children, losing custody, in and out of jail, battling addiction, going to prison. It was just a very dark circle and it was never ending.
So you say going to prison. How many times have you been to prison?
I've been to prison 3 times.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, that's a statement to addiction and how vicious the cycle can truly be. So this last time in prison, obviously is your last time. And so now you're in prison. What's
Yeah.
going on with Micah's head?
So when I went to prison this last time, I had actually just had my last son, my youngest son. I gave birth, and then like 2 weeks later, I ended up in prison very quickly, and I was real, real broken. I've lost custody of all four of my children. Um, so that alone really put me in a very dark spot, um, and just kept me sick in addiction. So when I went to prison this last time, I was very broken. There was no light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't have a good support system. I just didn't know how to cope with anything. When I first got to prison, I was still kind of in a really bad mindset, still doing the wrong things, still making poor decisions while being locked up. Um, and then one day they called me for chain, and I assumed that I was, going just to another prison. And I ended up at Lockhart, and I ended up being a bed filler in the Paws in Prison program just by luck because they don't like putting bed fillers into the program. But I was lucky and I got put in there. And that program, just seeing what it was doing for those ladies and how happy they were and having the dogs was super inspirational to me, you know.
Right, yeah.
Um, I don't know what it was exactly in the beginning because I was still pretty broken and I didn't really know what, you know, true love was, giving love and getting it back. I just didn't have that growing up. But when I seen these broken dogs coming in and these girls being able to take these dogs on and change their life, and then watching their lives change, like I wanted it, I craved it, and I felt like I would just do anything for it, you know?
Yeah.
So, so that's kind of where it all started.
All right. So now you're in the Pause in Prison program. You're obviously participating in the Pause in Prison program. I know back at that time, there was a special done on the Pause in Prison program and what it was about. This was right before COVID, I do believe, or right after COVID. Tell us a little about that special that came in.
So I do believe it was right after COVID. So the CBS did a documentary. They came in and they wanted to, interview a bunch of the girls. I think there was like 15, 20 of us that they interviewed, to be a part of the just the whole thing. And so I was one of them. They only picked four. Um, they just heard a little glimpse of our stories, 15,
Yeah.
20 of us women. And with me being one that was picked, it was just like huge. At that time, I was still, hello, I'm a little busy. At that time, I was still very, very broken. Um, just not okay, So when I was talking to them and giving them my story, I was very, very emotional and shameful and regretful all at the same time. So they really, I think, enjoyed hearing my story, and then also enjoyed hearing what the program was doing for me at the time, you know.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I was able to tell my story from before, and then also tell my journey as it was progressing in the program in that moment, you know, um, being broken and being able to kind of cut down those walls that were there through my addiction and the shame and everything of losing custody of my children, because that was probably the worst part of it all,
Yeah.
was losing custody of my children. And being able to face that for anyone, I believe, is tough. And I never thought I'd be able to break through it, but I did. And I was able to break through it, come out of it, go through the program. Um, and that CBS documentary was very helpful to me because I was able to talk about it for the first time. It's
Mhm.
not easy talking about it because it's not pretty flowers and things like that. It's shameful, hurtful things, but I was able to talk about it and work through it and tell my story, to hopefully one day help somebody else.
That's right. So we'll call that part one of your testimony. Okay. So your story with CBS, the dirt, the ugliness, the real part of what happens during addiction. We'll call that part one, and we'll just say this is take two of Micah's testimony. We'll just call it that. We'll just entitle it
Yeah.
that, I think, from here on out, because I do work with you, and I work with you side by side, day after day, and I've gotten to see firsthand the recovery process and what it's done, and the blossoming. And so I think that that is a true inspiration in itself. So let's get back to you, though. Let's get back to now we're in the program. I know you're in the program for a couple years, and I just want to know, and that you tell everybody else what changed. What changed in you that you decided no more and made you the person you are today?
I think it makes me emotional because I remember it so vaguely. I think what changed in me was that I was able to forgive myself.
Mm.
I was able to forgive myself for the things that I had done. And I was able to tell myself mentally and in my heart that I can do better. I am a good person. And I want to be someone one day that when my children do come and look for me, I want them to have something to find. I want them to be able to know that I did succeed. I I am there,
Yeah.
you know. So I think for me that was my changing point. One of my mottos, are you holding my hand? One of my biggest mottos that I told myself every day in the program when I opened my eyes was do the right thing, even when no one's looking. Because I knew in my heart that if I could do the right thing when no one was looking in there, I could 100% do it out here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're doing it. And that's what we're getting to now. And so, okay. So the prison sentence finally came to an end, or at least a pause, because parole is a pause, I do believe. And what happens with Micah?
So I was in the program for 3 years. I was a mentor in the program for two, Miss L's mentor. I absolutely loved every minute of it. It helped me to learn responsibility, structure, and being able to work with anybody. So I finally made parole. I got a job offer from Miss L. She told me that if I wanted to relocate, I could come and work for her and train and work at her dog boarding facility. And of course, I was like, yes, that's like just the biggest opportunity I've ever had in my whole life. And at the same time, I was scared. I was very scared. I've never moved away from home. I've always ran back and ended up back in jail or back in prison. You know, I lasted for a little bit, but I always ended up going back. So I was very, very scared. I didn't know anybody. I knew Miss L. That was it. I didn't know anybody else. But I did it. So I bit the bullet. I did it. I relocated to San Antonio, 6 hours away from home, and I started working. I dove right in. I got out February 28th. I started working, I think, within that first week, and got really good at it. You know, I worked at the kennels. I was a kennel tech in the beginning. I worked my way up to being able to be a supervisor, but also do training out here. So training in prison is very different than training out here, because
Yeah.
out here you have your paying customers and they don't always listen, but that's okay because you still work with them. And so I've learned how to deal with my customers and deal with the people that I train. So currently, I am a supervisor at a dog boarding facility. I'm also a professional dog trainer. I teach basic manners classes, as well as puppy classes. I also train service dogs for veterans. We have a SWAT program, canine service with a twist. So this is actually one of them. You know her. This is Willow. She is getting ready to go to her person. So I do a lot of different things in the animal world. I actually, that's all I do is animal world. That's what my life consists of.
Well, it's a big world. It's a huge
It
world.
is.
I don't know if a lot of people watching know, but it's a $6 billion industry from dog walking all the way up to, professional dog trainer to sports to grooming. It's all encompassed, to dog toys, to dog treats, to dog clothes. I mean, it's just a crazy, crazy industry because these aren't just dogs. They're a family. And
Mm.
so now that you're a professional dog trainer and you got all the big titles there and stuff, and you're doing good, I think there's a special connection now that you still have with Paws in Prison, and I think that the public needs to hear it. So go ahead and give it to us.
Yeah, so I was very, very grateful when I got out. I had been out for about 3 months, and Miss L got it approved through the warden for me to be able to go in for a special visit. And, you know, one of my biggest dreams and hopes when I got out was to be able to go back in and help the women. I think that is super valuable. I truly believe that if I can make it after everything that I've been through, all the suffering, all the shame, everything that I've done, if I can survive and make it out of there, anybody can. And I want to tell my story. I want to continue to help women. I want to go back in and teach. I want to be that person that may just save someone else's life. And so that was my goal. That was my hope. Miss L made it happen 3 months after I got out. I was able to go in for a special visit. It was very heartwarming. Once I got my fill, I never wanted to give it up. So I worked really, really hard, granted with parole because sometimes they drag their feet. But I never gave up. I worked really hard to get everything approved so I can be a volunteer, a legit volunteer through the state to be able to go back into the prison. So now currently I am a volunteer for the Paws in Prison program. I go in every week. We are trying to make it to where we can make it in there twice a week. But every week I do go in there and I train. I tell my story. The dorm is forever changing, so we are always getting new girls, new faces in there. And when I see their faces, I just remember my face and how I felt
Yeah.
when I first was sitting there. So I know these women are still broken. I know they're still on their journey. I know that they have um, a lot of things that they have to work through. And so being able to go back in there now, every week and do the things that I do, train, be an inspiration, tell my story, it just really keeps me going every day. Every day that I wake up, no matter how tired I am, we drive an hour and a half to get there, an hour and a half back. We currently don't get paid to go there. We haven't gotten paid in the last year and a half, but that is a work in progress. But we do this on our own free will, and it helps me to continue to do what I do for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think people realize exactly after the process is done, you need that purpose. You need that drive. You need to not just sit back and not do things. And that's a privilege, and do you now have, and a passion, not just a privilege, a passion. I mean, like you said, we're not paid to do that. But you take the time to go anyway. And I know that you would do it regardless, whether there was ever any incentive or not. You do it for the women and for the dogs. So I have a question. I want you to think about it for just a second. And what if there would have never been Paws in prison? What if there was no Paws in prison? Do you think that you would still be the woman you are today? And what what would that have done to your life?
Um, Honestly, if there was no pause in prison, there would be no Micah today. I would not be the person I am today, without that program. That program helped to build me up to who I am today. It not only helped me to work through everything on the inside, but also the resources that the program gave, um, helped me put my foot in the door to be able to be successful. So without that program, I think, a lot of people that are super successful right now would have suffered a lot more than not being in the program, not having it. Not having the program would be super detrimental, is what I'm trying to say, to a lot of women that are successful now, including myself.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I just sometimes don't think that the public truly encompasses just how important this is to our motto, to the who saved who motto, to it's not just about rescuing dogs, it's also about rescuing women.
Mm.
And you are one of the success stories, Micah. I'm super proud of you, and I thank you so much for meeting with me today. Is there anything else that you want to say or add?
Uh, you know, just to touch just a little bit on that last part, we have so many people in our life today that just talk so highly of us and tell us, how lucky they are to have us in their life, how such of a good person we are today. And I just want anybody and everybody to know watching this right now that because of that program is the reason I am able to sit here with you today, not for any other reason. Because of that program is the reason why I am here today. And that's what I
Well,
wanted you to know.
well, I'm glad that that program changed you. I'm glad that this program still exists. So grateful to Catherine Laria and the board for always keeping it open, and all the supporters out
Yeah.
there that are watching that support it with their donations, because it is a nonprofit and it couldn't be done without them. So I just want to give a big thank you, and thank you so much for meeting with me.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yes.
Micah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.